So welcome everybody to the MESA Think Tank Sustainability Challenge rules for 2020-2021. This will be a virtual competition both at the local level and at the regional level. So if you're interested in environmental sustainability, environmental justice, or eco-environmental changes, this is a competition for you. This year's MESA Tank competition will ask MESA Tank competitors to create a STEM competition with an environmental sustainability and theme that includes a prototype, rules, and a digital presentation for MESA Day. Example themes could include renewable energy sources such as wind or solar, biodiversity preservation like protecting endangered plants and animals, climate change mitigation and climate resilience, reducing air, ocean, and plastic pollution, agricultural sustainability such as reducing reliance on chemicals and improving ecosystem services such as healthy pollinators, and many more. You can check out different ideas for sustainability themes by looking at the UN Sustainable Development Goals or the National Engineering Challenges for this year. The links to both of those sites can be found in the MESA Think Tank Rules document. So the materials. The materials provided by the host center, since this is a virtual competition, will basically just be the Zoom link and the judging. The student presenter will provide the following: a presentation. Those should be in Google Slides. That will be the presentation format acceptable this year. Next year, when we return to in-person, we'll allow posters again, but for this year, just Google Slides. Written rules for the competition. They should be written digitally, and there's a template included in the MESA Think Tank Sustainability Challenge rules as well, and a project prototype. So general rules. Teams must be composed of 1 to 3 students per team. Just for this year, we're allowing individuals to compete in MESA Tank, assuming that some of you may be working from home and working with other students may not be possible. If you're in the classroom, do try to work with the team. If you're at home, you can work with a sibling to help you do your project, but otherwise you're welcome to work as an individual. All projects must be related to the topic of environmental sustainability. If that's not clear, your project will not be considered for judging. A project competition must be safe for all participants and judges and to the audience. The project competition must be the original work of teams. Teams may not reuse project rules or supporting materials from past projects or other teams. Commercial models or kits may not be used as part of the competition. All elements must be properly labeled in your project. Teams must properly label your rules, your prototype, and name of the students on the team, grade level, school, and MESA Center. Your MESA Center is Pacific Mesa. A 10% penalty in the score will be assessed for failing to properly label. We can't necessarily see your prototype, but put it on there. But definitely for your rules and for your Google Slides, you'll want to include that labeling. All projects must have the following 3 elements: a set of competition rules, a Google Slides presentation, and a project prototype that is safe and functioning. So the next 3 slides, I'm going to talk about those 3 elements because each one of those elements has their own separate rules. So competition rules. The rules for the competition must include an overview of the competition, list of materials, general rules, mathematical principles relating to the project, and judging guidelines. Rules for the competition must include 3 math concepts, i.e. lift, force, distance, and apply each of them to the competition with an example. And we'll talk about that a little later. I'll show you guys an example in the template section of this presentation. Teams must include the price of your prototype at the end of your rules document with a brief description of the materials used. It must be clear for the judges to see. There's no specific limit on the prices, but teams will be scored on the cost feasibility of the prototype. So really, you want to keep your prototypes under $10. Project evaluation equipment, however, like a bridge breaker or a glider launcher, doesn't need to be included in the price list. And the price list of the prices of these judging equipment will not affect the final score of your project. Presentation. Presentation visual aid must be created in Google Slides. You must include an introduction of the sustainability topic and state how the competition relates to environmental sustainability. So those are two different things. So say your competition is relating to biodiversity preservation, you're going to want to talk about what biodiversity preservation is, what it means, what's the importance of that concept, and then you're going to want to state how your competition relates to that topic. So you can't just say, this is what my environmental, biodiversity preservation looks like, but my project is water filtration. You have to make it clear what you're presenting has to do with the sustainability topic that you have in mind. You must include the steps of the engineering design process to achieving your competition. That should be there within the presentation. And the presentation should not be a reciting of the competition rules. It should be a pitch trying to sell the judges on why your team's competition is important and relevant. So the pitch should be engaging and show how your competition stands out. The prototype. The prototype of the project competition should be completely built and ready to go at the time of your presentation. You must be ready to demonstrate how that competition works. Your project competition prototype should not exceed 50 by 50 by 50 centimeters. So that's length, width, height of your project. Judging equipment can be larger, but within reason. You can't, it's not feasible if you're using a car to test your equipment. Obviously, that would not be very easy for us to do, and feasibility does have a significant amount of points in the judging rubric. And if you're interested in seeing a presentation about how projects will be judged, we also have a video about that. You should explain how your competition will be judged during the prototype demonstration. That's going to make more sense than doing it within the Google Slides, but you can do it both places if you'd like as well. But definitely we want to see if you're showing how, say you're catapulting, want to see how that catapult is going, and maybe how you might measure that in judging. So that would be really helpful to include that in the demonstration of your prototype. So the judging process, I'm going to move this. So there's a judging process that's pretty different this year because of the competition being completely online. So this is the judging process prior to presentation, and then we'll talk about the process during the presentation. So prior to presentation, teams must turn in their competition rules and Google Slide presentation approximately 2 weeks prior to the presentation date. So probably our MESA day or days week will be around second week of March. So you're looking to maybe the last, or around the last week of February, that we're going to want to see those in, but we'll give you further instructions about how to turn those elements into us and exactly when they're due. Upon confirming reception of these 2 items, you will receive a confirmation email, and that confirmation email will have a link to a place where you can sign up for a presentation slot. And your team captain will receive a Zoom link for your presentation slot at least 3 days prior to your presentation time, and hopefully earlier than that. But we want to make sure that we can juggle everybody and move everybody around and give them all a presentation slot. So all members should be present in the Zoom call for the project presentation. Teams will be given up to 5 minutes after their allotted start time to show up for the presentation call. If no members are present at that time, the team will be disqualified. Students should have their prototypes set up prior to the Zoom presentation call. Now we'll talk about the process of what's going to happen once we get into that call. So once you sign in, you'll be able to introduce yourselves prior to the start of the presentation. And then as soon as you first start sharing your Google Slides and start talking, that's when we'll start the time clock. You'll have exactly 3 minutes for your pitch presentation. After the 3-minute mark, teams will be stopped and will not be allowed to present over that time. 1-minute follow-up time of questions will be allotted while the screen is transitioning to the student presenting the prototype. So you say you have one student presenting the slides, and that you're presenting that, going through that. You're going to have 1 minute to transition, turn that off, and make sure you have a camera focused on your prototype to whoever is presenting that on your team. The students will then have a maximum of 1 minute to demonstrate your prototype, and the judges will ask questions after the presentation and after the prototype demonstration. Only judges, appointed staff, and competing teams will be allowed in the Zoom meeting. So no parents or other observers or teachers in that Zoom meeting, just the judges and your team. Judges will provide signals in the Zoom chat for students at the following intervals: 1 minute, 30 seconds, and 5 seconds, so you know how much time you have left during your presentation. There should be 3 judges present with a minimum of 2. If there's not at least 2 judges, you have the right to request a different meeting time for sure, and do that, but you should have 3 judges during your Zoom call. Judging scores will be averaged to determine the final scores. So the rules template. This is at the end of the MESA Tank Sustainability Challenge rules document. You'll see that there. There is also an editable version. So that'll be in PDF, but we'll also have a Word version that you can download in our MESA Tank Sustainability Challenge folder. So you'll just want to use this template. The template will include the following elements. First, an overview. The section is designed to give a brief overview of the contest. It's encouraged that you use technical language such as design, construct, build. Make sure that you're precise on what you're doing in your competition. Materials. So the materials, you should list all materials that students should use and all materials they shouldn't use. So the illegal materials here as necessary. This should be in bullet form and have as much specific detail as possible. So i.e. large, fresh, raw, white, chicken, eggs, Victor brand, standard size mousetrap. So it should be really clear what students can and can't use. General rules should enumerate the rules. You may include as many rules as are necessary. This section should primarily pertain to the construction of the device, model, etc. Rules template continued. You want to have your math concepts. You'll want to list the math concept that is applicable to your project, and then apply each of them to the competition with an example. So you'll get points for both the concept and the example. So for example, here's one right to the right here. We have the math concept. The math concept is force. The way you calculate as force is mass times the acceleration. And then there's an example of how that is calculated in this particular example. And they have the whole calculation listed out there. So in high school, you'll need to provide 3 math concepts and examples. For middle schoolers, that's just 2 math concepts and examples. And that's the main difference for the rules for middle school versus high school. Judging, enumerate your rules. You can include as many as are necessary. The rules in this section should primarily pertain to judging and event procedures, as well as an explanation and samples of any scoring formulas that might be used. awards, make sure to define what places will be awarded. If there are multiple categories such as distance and creativity, and define what category advances to your imagined regional competition. And then attachments or appendix, this section is optional, but you can include additional documents such as a scoring rubric in this section. So basically you're putting together a rules document that's going to look a lot like a MESA rules document. So if you have a really feasible competition, we could take these rules and make this a MESA competition in a new year. And that's the idea with these MESA competitions. Finally, your itemized budget sheet. This is at the very end of the template, but it's really, really important. There's a lot of points attached to this. There's 10 points involved in your itemized budget sheet. So you want to include your products, your retail price, the price per unit, how many you use, the total cost, where you purchase them, and what the overall cost is. So definitely don't forget to fill out your budget sheet in your rules document. That's very important. All right, that's the end of this presentation. So hopefully, if you have any questions, just feel free to send us an email. We can clarify that for you, or check out the rules document. Looks like this. It'll be in the folder, the resource folder for MESA Think Tank Sustainability Challenge. And good luck. And don't forget to check out our following videos. We have a hints and tips video, and we have a judging video. So have a good day.